Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network. And we are back to discuss episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again, episode title Sic Semper Systema. I am one of your hosts. My name is Darian Vinny. I am joined this time by Vinny Albano.
Hello, hello.
Vinny, we returned from last week where we covered the first 3 episodes. We had a lot to cover in that. This will be a shorter review because we're just doing the one. Yeah. But we did, I'm going to start with the obvious big thing. And again, this is spoiler heavy discussion that we're about to have. So if you haven't watched the episode, go and watch the episode and then come back and listen to our discussion. But me, you, and John were speculating on Punisher. And boy, did we get a hell of a Punisher scene at the end of this episode, or towards the end of this episode, I should say. One, I want to start with that because I want to know your thoughts on the reintroduction to Frank Castle. There were also some quotes that came out recently from Jon Bernthal where he talked about the initial version of this show. They asked him to come back and he said no. So a lot of what he said, I just didn't understand what they were doing with the character, and I didn't believe the direction they were going in with Frank would have been something that the fans would have dug and what I understand to be Frank Castle. So this version of the show he approves of, obviously. He came back on and now he's doing the holiday special, which we discussed. But how do you feel that we get Frank and Matt going head to head in this? I mean, these I would say, before I get your thoughts, these scenes we're getting when it's 2 characters are standouts to me.
Oh,
100% in this show. 100%.
I thought those were the best parts of the episode.
Yeah.
Even, we'll get to it later, but even the interaction between Fisk and
Daniel Blake.
Yeah.
100% agree.
And, but going back to Frank and Matt, well, that's probably my favorite scene in this episode. It's so raw. It's so intense.
So good, man.
And Charlie Cox, is great. Jon Bernthal is so good. They have such... Jon Bernthal has, obviously so much anger within this character, Frank Castle. He portrays it so well. But what I loved and what fit so well within where Matt's character is currently in the series is that moment when Matt hit Frank and then he goes, no, I'm sorry. And just the entire conversation was so well done. But that particularly was my favorite moment. The genuine emotion behind it, the understanding of the character from not only the writing perspective, but also the acting perspective of things is great. It's great.
The tit for tat with the 2 of them and Matt trying to stay within himself during that scene. Yeah. And then Frank being like, what are you sorry for? That was the first honest thing you did since you got in here, Red. It's just like, I missed these interactions. Yeah. Jon Bernthal, again, I'll just reiterate, I think his interpretation of this character is one of the best comic book come to life on screen that we've ever seen. You were right about, obviously, the cops are just kind of branding themselves with this. He calls them a bunch of bullshit fanboys.
Yeah, great line.
It's a great line. It's an incredible scene. I mean, he references Foggy and what that means to Matt, and the fact that he is still within himself. Frank is never going to change for anybody, and he's not hiding from anybody. He goes, you found me, didn't you? What am I hiding from? So I'm really looking forward to seeing what is going to happen with Frank going forward. He's planning something, obviously. I think he's obviously planning to go after Fisk. Do you think the same?
I think so. Yeah. I feel like it'd make the most sense. And I almost wish we got a little bit more of hints and clues to what is going to go down with Frank. Yeah. Because aside from the interaction one-on-one, we don't really get much except for the hideout that he's in. He has posters with X's through them. So he's probably, I don't know.
He's plotting.
What's he been doing?
Just the whole scene, man, is so good. I mean, some other lines in the scene. I don't think you came here for my help. See, I think you want my permission. You want to get your hands on somebody, huh? It's just there's something with the 2 of them and what Daredevil stands for in this new version of Matt that we're seeing in Born Again, where he is sort of afraid to go back into himself and being that version of himself, the Daredevil version. Muse is going to be the one to get it out of him, though. I feel like, and we get a little bit of the Muse reveal in this episode. We do finally see him. We don't get the confirmation of the young guy that goes to the book signing being him. But that is the last scene in the episode, right? Am I correct?
Yeah,
it's him draining the blood.
Muse, and then the last scene is him draining the blood.
Yeah. So based on the little bit that we saw of him, what are your thoughts on the look of him? What are your thoughts going forward of what we might get with Muse and so forth?
Yeah, with Muse, I want them to go like. I don't want them to
skimp out on the dark.
Skimp out. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, like they should. We saw a little bit of it. Bodies were hanging, and we saw the artwork. But like John really informed me. John's not here. I looked to the left.
We're looking for John. He's not here on this episode. He'll be back for the finale. But
he informed me a lot on the character even before the show came out. And if he's gonna be a psychopath, let him be a psychopath. I think that would be so great. I know last episode we talked about this is a Disney Plus show. This is gonna be a little crazy, but they should take that leap and make it go a little crazy because it's Daredevil, and this is somebody that he hasn't fought before, right? All the people he's fought before they've had really kind of strong ideologies behind their actions, right? But if we have like just a straight out psychopath, like a serial killer, that's a really interesting take within Daredevil.
Yeah, I do think that I think the defining what Disney Plus is in 2025 comparatively to what it might have been in like 2020 is different now at this point. Like this is definitely the first TVMA thing that they've done though, and you can see it when in certain interactions with characters. I mean, they even something as little as like when you see the interaction with Daniel BB and the friend, and they're like in a nightclub like drinking, like that's something you wouldn't see on a Disney show, and that's like the lowest part of the barometer, you know what I mean? To bodies hanging and Muse draining blood from victims. Like I think we're gonna get down a certain path. Frank as a character too is so dark and so gritty and so tragic. Like everything in his story is tragic, and now we're seeing the tragedy kind of play on Matt in a direct way. I think John was talking about it last week, where he's been through so much. Right. Matt as a character has seen so much. He's been through so much. He lost his dad at a young age, and now he has to deal with the loss of his best friend and what that means to him and that shame and that guilt that he feels. And I think that Muse is going to play so much into that, because I think there's going to start to be this trail that kind of happens. And I think that they're all going to be kind of entangled in it. I think it's going to be a Matt thing. It's going to obviously be a Frank thing. It's going to have to be a Wilson thing as the mayor of New York. He's going to have to do something. But he's also embroiled in his own shit. Yeah. Because we see that he's also doing his best Trump impression again. I mean, the parallels between Wilson Fisk and Donald Trump are crazy in the show. Yeah. But on the other side of it, in the comic book side of it, I guess, at the end of the episode, he's seen eating dinner and he's evaluating someone in a jail cell that wronged him. This is the mayor of New York that is just trapping people in his house. So I'm curious on what you think, maybe in terms of that theme of the guilt and the shame that comes between those three characters, Wilson, Frank, and Matt, and where that's going to end up, or if you have either theories or predictions, or if it's something you like about it versus where they could wind up going.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of go over, to answer your question. This might be a long answer, and it might go into another point I have of the show, but I think it's going to be the connecting factor. I think that the conversations and the theme of that between Matt and Frank's characters, they're going to connect. I think Frank is going to be his motivator to bring him back into the suit, right? And we've kind of saw it in this episode, where at the end he's getting that crave again. You know, he takes out his equipment and he starts playing with it. So I think Frank and those emotions they're gonna kind of link up. And he's going to be his motivator to go out and, take on Muse or take on Fisk. In terms of solely Fisk character, I don't know. It's hard to say. I really have no idea where they're going to take him. by the end of the series, or where he's going to go, which is a good thing. It's a good thing that's unpredictable. I just hope that they deliver on that, and I hope it's not like a bullshit kind of left turn type of conclusion. I hope that it does all come full circle within these like riveting emotions that they all share, And, I mean, ever since the first episode, and this has been established since the Netflix series, but we saw in that diner scene in the first episode, these characters are just the opposite sides of the same coin. Fisk and Matt are almost too similar in a way.
They're reliant on each other.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
I liked with the Fisk thing that, and I agree with you, I think that the unpredictability with him is one of the things that has me coming back. I mean, again, Vincent D'Onofrio was so good in this role. This version of this role, not the Hawkeye version of this role.
I was gonna say,
not that that's his fault.
Yeah.
That was a creative choice, but it's like, man, I don't want to see that shit ever again.
You must have read my mind, because when you said that, I just got the image of him in the like Hawaiian shirt getting like blown up.
Exactly. And that's like that's a thing in the comics. Like it's not that that's not a comic storyline, but like that's not the Kingpin that they created for the Netflix show, and that is you've already established within your own universe. You know what I mean? But for me, I was happy because I was worried, and we can kind of go into the Daniel Blake scene now as part of this, because this was Michael Gandolfini's standout episode thus far in the season. But there's that moment where he kind of accepts that he's a loyalist. He wants to be there for Wilson and what his vision is. He says in the beginning, I think it is this episode, right, where he goes, "You're the mayor of New York." He's like, "That's like, how awesome is that?" Or whatever. I forget exactly what the verbiage is. But it's something where he really looks up to this guy, and you see it even in his social interactions with his friends. He's like, I need to get home. Like, this is more important than me having friends and having a social connection. Like, I have a duty to do. I'm interested in what this guy is going to do for our city. And I was worried that at the end, when they showed the knuckles of who was in the cage, and he was saying, "I'm sorry, Mr. Fisk," I thought it was going to be...
I thought it was him too.
Daniel. And if it was, it would have made me change my thoughts on their interaction, I think. Because that was too tropey for me. I would have been like, that's too predictable. Like, like, that's the same old Wilson Fisk that we know. And Wilson showing a little bit of restraint for his political aspirations with Daniel, and being like, you know what, like, you're a man of integrity, like, you owned up to it. But then he's like, but if you ever do it again, it'll be the last thing you ever do. And I'm like, that's the fucking Wilson I want. I'm banging things because I'm excited. But this guy is like, there's such a coldness to him, and that dichotomy between that and then the therapy sessions with Vanessa. Like, I know I'm higher on this show than I think you are, and that John is. But I really like the approach that they're taking with these characters, and they're doing a good job of balancing them, I think.
I will say these last two episodes have really changed my opinion than the first episode gave me. Like, I am enjoying this. And now, like last episode, episode 3, I left off being like, yeah, I want more. And then this episode, I was like, yeah, I want more. Like, I can't wait for next week. So I'm definitely joining the hype train there. Not to pivot the direction of the conversation into another kind of actually, before I pivot, I do want to comment. Yeah, I think that's the best part of the show. Like, these the best part of this episode, just the character interactions and the dialogue and the you use the word dichotomy, right? That contrast and that conflict between nearly every character when they're talking in this episode. You know, even moments of like Hector's nephew or niece, right? Just
another great scene.
Conflict between Matt and her. You know, they're not like, it's not like hero versus villain. You know, this is a kid, but like, you know, she's grieving her uncle. You know, so,
and playing the reality of the world that they're setting up.
Yeah.
And the how terrible the cops are within this world, and what they have the ability to do, and what Matt is fighting against, and he's trying to provide justice, you know?
Yeah, and I'm gonna pivot towards that, and the the client that Matt serves in this episode, he gets caught stealing the
Caramel corn.
Yes. And I do enjoy that plot thread because the messaging, it fits within the series, and it's well done, and it's a very empathetic message. It's a message I enjoy. However, I do pose the question of like, was it delivered well enough? You know, because I almost wish that now I don't know what the future episodes are going to look like, but I almost wish that it was delivered with a character that had more plot relevance.
I would agree with you.
You know,
I think structurally also the way that the scene played out was weird. It was like the first scene since the premiere that I was like, why did they edit it this way?
Yeah.
And what it was very relatable to who Daredevil is. Like, I think for comic fans, it was an interesting approach because it was showing you all the sides of Matt within like a 5-minute sequence.
Yeah.
Like, he went in and he was like, I'm going to help you. I want to be the guy to help the less fortunate that nobody is ever there to help and be out there for. Then he goes into the room and he's flirting with the woman who's trying to give him like the terms of what it's going to be. And he haggles her all the way down. And that's a part of Matt that we know. He's a womanizer, like he always has been. He's been across the Netflix show. He's now got another girl in this show. Yeah. And then he goes back and has this very serious interaction with this guy, with messaging that like you're talking about. And I think that was the thing that kind of threw me off the most. But I do agree with you also in terms of like it should be like it almost feels like I wish they did that with Hector. Like they had something longer happening with Hector, and I love the one-on-one interaction he had with Hector last episode before he went in to the court case. So that was one of the only scenes thus far in this show between two characters where it wasn't poorly done. It just felt out of place in comparison to the other scenes. I would agree with you.
I 100% agree. Like the writing there is great. It's just that I just wish that, and now we don't know, maybe he will have more plot relevance. Maybe we'll return back to him. We'll return back to him in prison. You know, he's serving jail.
Maybe he's going to be one of Muse's victims.
That too, maybe. But as of now, where we are on episode 4, I do wish that idea was portrayed with a character that didn't feel like a filler character. You know?
Yeah, like a character of the week.
Yeah. Now that we're on that though, what I love though about the relevancy of a plot thread like that in this show is for the last few episodes, Matt has emphasized, I'm not Daredevil anymore. I'm not a vigilante that's trying to fight against the system. I have trust in the system. I'm going to trust the system. I trusted the system with Bullseye. This entire episode, nearly every interaction he has are people literally saying, why are you trusting the system when the system is actively failing us, right? His client is like, the system has fucked me over, and you just want to you want to pat on the back because it's the best you could do. It's like, but there's something fundamentally wrong here, and Matt recognizes that. Frank, says it outwardly, like what do you trust in the system, like the system that's gonna keep fucking us over, right? And same with the niece too. At the beginning of the episode, it's like you trusted in the system, and Hector he was found not guilty, yet he still ended up dead and no one cared. Yeah. And that's what I really loved about this episode.
Yeah, you see it in a more blatant way too when he gets into the argument or the physical interaction with the other cop that he didn't kill, the one cop Powell. that came to take out his key witness. And I love that scene too, like the way that they're weaving with the character, like they're doing a really good job of the world building. We talked about that last week, where like it's partly sequelized to the Netflix show, but it's born again, like literally in name and him as a character. And I think that they're doing a good job. Like, I'm a fan of the pacing of the show. I know some people are like, oh, I wish they would pick up on this a little bit sooner. It's like next week we're also getting 2 episodes, which I think could be like a big thing. We're going from episode 4. We're going from going into episode 5 that we're going to be going into episode 7, and there's 9 episodes in the season.
Yeah.
So then we're in the final stretch at that point. And I think it's going to wind up ending, I think this season, because I think we talked about this last week, but it was initially supposed to be a 1 season, 22 episode, I think it was initially, or maybe it was 18.
I think it was 18.
It was. Yeah. And then they decided they were going to split it into 2 seasons. So season 1's going to end with the 9th episode, and they're currently filming season 2 as we speak. I think this season's going to end with Muse killing his partner. I forget. You remember her name? It starts with an H.
Heather.
It is Heather, right? So I think it's going to end with Muse killing Heather, and it's going to turn Daredevil into this dark. I think by the end of the show, we're going to see a very dark Matt. A Matt that's going to be like, he's going to be forever changed. I mean, he's already lost Foggy. We don't really know what's going to happen with no, I can't. I'm having another brain fog. The one in San Francisco now. Karen. Yeah. We don't know. Karen is gone. Obviously, she's on the other coast, and now he has this love interest Heather that he's obviously building a rapport with. So, I think we're gonna see at the end of the show, it's gonna be something where, like you're talking about, those themes of like, why are you putting trust in our system? The system is broken, essentially.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, because you brought up the pacing.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking about. I'm thinking about the pacing because the in my opinion, I think these episodes are well paced. Like I'm not bored.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I think it's taking its time, and I'm glad it's taking its time because it's really allowing everything to breathe in a proper manner. However, I'm thinking about it because this season's only going to be 9 episodes. We're only seeing Muse in the,
costume.
Like Muse.
Yeah.
For glimpses at the beginning and the end of this episode, and this is episode 4. So it's almost like, and the next episode is going to be, it's going to be the midpoint of the season, right? And every midpoint changes the trajectory of the series, right? So that's like what I'm wondering right now is like, are we introducing this antagonist too late, or maybe it's the perfect time? Is the midpoint gonna be, I think next episode something crazy has to happen. It's building up to it. There needs to be some sort of loss.
So I think that since we're getting a 2 episode drop next week, I think episode 5 is going to be, and I don't need, this is very speculative, but I feel like there's going to be elements of a bottle episode in the first one. I think it could be something with Muse's backstory. It could be something where we get flashback of a certain character or something that came before. I think by the time we're done with that second episode 6, something drastic is going to happen where Muse is going to either take somebody hostage, or I think Matt's going to become aware of what is happening. And I think that's when we're going to kind of propel into those final 3 episodes, because I think they're saving the action. I really think that they're going to save the action for maybe the final 2 episodes of the season, like the actual fight scenes. And we're still like, again, White Tiger getting shot. You can consider it an action sequence. It's something in which there's violence occurring. You start to see Matt training, like you said, on the rooftop at the end of this. But I like that they're taking their time with it, because I still think there's that element where you want to build up to, like, Matt needs to feel that he really needs to come back into form, and he really needs to don the red again. Like, he needs to really understand the severity of the situation, and what is it going to take for him to go against what he's now gone against for a year, that he's not going to be this person or this version of himself anymore. So that's what I think. Did you have any theories or anything you're thinking?
No, you encapsulated my thoughts perfectly, because everything,
we're on the same wavelength.
We're on the same wavelength perfectly, so I'm not even going to repeat that, because
I did want to bring up a scene that this is off topic, but it plays into just the element of what Wilson is dealing with in his new occupation as the mayor of New York.
Him
having to endure The sing what was the song again? Do you remember?
It was
we built this city. We built
yeah.
this city. So he goes in, he's ready to just his day starts off and he's like he goes to a broken down port. It's like a port, isn't it? It's like a port that he wants to build up. Red Hook. Yeah, he wants to build up this port in Red Hook. And I think part of it is also to be like part of his criminal aspirations as well, underlying. But she obviously isn't aware of that. His the woman who's working with him, Sheila, his advisor. But he goes from that. Daniel Blake's like, "This is a great idea, boss." And then she's like, "We have a lot of things on your calendar, so we have to get going." And it just cuts right to the scene of him just sitting there listening to a choir of children going, "We built this city." And then they're like, "We have another song for you, Mr. Mary." He's like, "No, that's quite all right. I have to get going." And then it shows him going into the Latvian Cultural Center on Latvian Appreciation Day in New York. And as he's getting up there to make his speech, they're singing "We Built This City" in Latvian, which is so great. And it just plays into like the bullshit prognostication that comes with being a politician at times. It's like you're being paraded around to do shit that has no merit. It doesn't matter why you're doing it. I thought those scenes were so funny, and it played into like a different side of Wilson that we haven't seen. Did you also enjoy? I mean, it was great.
I 100% agree, and I'm so glad you brought it up because I wanted to speak about this on the podcast. It's that is a great example of comedy. Marvel, please. When I saw that and I was laughing, I'm like, "Oh, this is great. This is funny." And then I realized, like, wow, this is actually like this is comedy. This is actually how you write comedy, not like Captain America: Brave New World, where it's like
attack bad guy. I'm gonna do my dance now. Airdrop. Yeah, you got airdrop, right? Oh.
Like, I know it's ridiculous. Even the line delivery and the writing in that. I don't know. I think it probably was the writing, but when he's getting ready to leave and he goes, "Children have such talent." It's just like the greatest thing to say. It's like the perfect thing that his character would say. And then they're like, "Any more words, Mr. Mayor, for our children?" And he goes, "As they say, the city never sleeps." And he just walks out the door, and it's like, that's great. That's exactly what would happen in that situation.
It's great writing. It doesn't what. All right, you know what? For lack of better terms, it doesn't jerk itself off.
100%.
Like it feels real. Like it feels like real comedy.
It's authentic,
which I appreciate, especially from a Marvel property.
Yes,
that's what like really gave me like just a breath of fresh air because it's on Disney Plus. This is a Marvel character in the MCU, and it wasn't like a comedy moment that like cut tension or just completely de-escalated the scene. It served the story, and it was comedic in like a very mature way.
I agree. I will say, in terms of the larger scope of the Marvel part of the conversation, this was a show that it was this and Captain America 4, which me, you, and Sean, who's producing this, we all talked about. But we weren't a fan of that movie. And that was a situation in which I feel like there was so much irreparable damage that even though they tried to fix that movie, there wasn't enough of a skeleton to kind of do it. With this was the first thing that Marvel was like, you know what? Fuck this. We're going to stop filming this show. We are going to stop production. We're going to rethink what we're going to do. We're going to rewrite episodes, and then we're going to have a new approach. And it's working. It's a wonderful strategy. If it's not working with your test audiences or there's people that don't feel confident in the product, it might cost you a little bit more money, but fucking take a break, take a beat, go back, approach the characters the way you're supposed to, and then just go from there. You know what I mean? So I'm enjoying this show week to week. I'm excited to see what else we have going on. Was there anything else we missed? I feel like we might have covered all the big things.
I think we covered everything. I think this is a solid episode. It's like you said, it's a lot of it's set up. It's a lot of dialogue, but it's good dialogue. It's good characters. We haven't got back into the action yet, but I'm fine with that. I'm glad that both of us have said it's taking its time in a good like well-paced manner.
Yeah,
so
I agree. We're enjoying the show. We hope you guys are enjoying the show. Let us know in the comments, what are your guys' thoughts on episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again? Are you guys excited for the 2-episode drop next week? I mean, we had 2 episodes, I guess, for the premiere, right?
Yeah.
We had 2 for the premiere, and I believe after that it's just week to week for the final 3 weeks. I'm sorry. So excited to review those next 2 episodes with you guys next week. Give this video a like if you guys can. Subscribe to us here at the Culture Media Network. If you're a fan of Marvel, we have other Marvel reviews on the channel. We have Captain America Brave New World, which we already just said we covered recently. We have X-Men 97 coverage from last year. We have other videos on the state of the MCU and things that are coming forward. We cover everything Marvel here, so we're looking forward to that. If you guys watch other stuff outside of the realm of Marvel, we're also covering Severance. We're covering The White Lotus. We just finished our coverage of Invincible. We have movie reviews on the channel. Black Bag, The Electric State, Opus is upcoming. So there's a lot for you guys to check out on the channel there as well. And you guys can also follow us on social media if you don't already. All that stuff is below me in the video right now. It's also in our YouTube description. We're on Instagram. We're on Threads. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok. Any place that you guys want to find more of our stuff, you guys can find it there. So thank you guys for checking it out. Just signing off, I'm Darian Scalamoni.
And I'm Vinny Albano.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.